Good morning, Commissioners. Jessica Warren, Human Resources. I have a pretty short list this morning. So the first is a notification from Juvenile Probation. Their lead probation officer has accepted the position of the court manager position. So they'll be filling his position of lead probation officer, and they'll post it internally because that tends to be filled by another probation officer. And then next item, it's a request to fill from Offender Services. Their electronic monitoring officer, Kelly Lofgren, has put in her resignation effective July 7th. I believe she's moving, but they would like to request to fill her position. I don't see Marin here yet, so she might have more information.
Marin sent me an email and said she had some plumbing problems at home, so she wouldn't make it today. She would follow up with an email later with stats like she usually gives us. So this is for the jail?
It's the Offender Services program. So it's the electronic monitoring officer. I don't have the details on what this specific position does, but it's non-union. It's paid at the same salary as their work crew officers, but it's a more specialized position.
So this is the office that is on the 4th floor of the Hall of Justice, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
If you need more information, then we can wait until Marin's back, but I didn't know that she wouldn't be here this morning.
This person is leaving July.
Yeah, she's leaving in July.
So there's,
Is that a position that we go out to union members first, or?
Nope, it's a non-union position,
Okay.
so it'd be posted to the public. These positions tend to take longer to fill, so luckily the person gave us enough time to.
He probably wanted to get it posted, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I don't know enough to say anything.
Yeah.
Mhm. We can hold off until next week. I don't think. that
1
would be a
week's
big
probably not
deal.
going to hurt anything, just in case there's any questions.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
And that's all I have on my list. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Budget, Kathy.
Good morning. It's
Good morning.
Kathy Funk Baxter, Finance Manager. I just wanted to give you an update. Brian, our budget analyst, took advantage. We got an email. I think Arn sent us something about AI. And so we did a little research, and he did some research, and with ChatGPT, he was able to do some AI where he can download on a daily basis some work that comes in from an email and put it into spreadsheets for us. So, and that helps us keep track of our personnel data. So,
Well,
wanted to thank you for that.
is that the website you were talking about? Yeah, okay. Well, cool.
Yeah. So we found one use so far. We'll keep looking. We also met with Public Works last week, and we have meetings scheduled with the sheriff and the Health and Human Services, their finance managers. And we're just trying to begin our preparation work for the budget and just trying to get a better understanding ourselves of what they perform, and then what ideas they have to improve our budget process, and ask them anything that we can do to help. And then this week, we're going to be meeting with Kim Hoyt to go over the IT, the budget process for billing the departments for the internal service area. And we're going to be looking to improve and revamp that a bit so that we have better instructions and things like that in our files. And then we also this week will be sending out billings for the annual unemployment charges to the various departments. So that's all I have.
Any questions?
I do say I appreciate and I look forward to a rational explanation and how the IT costs are shared across. I remember hearing a little bit about it and thinking, seemed strange, but maybe I'm strange.
Well,
And-
that billing is over $4 million. So
Oh, yeah,
one of
it's a
the-
fair chunk of
It's one of
money.
the largest ones. Mhm.
And thanks for following up on that AI. It's really interesting. You may end up having to do a presentation for us at some point.
Okay.
At some point, it's too soon, but
Or turn on a monitor that tells us. I did have a chance to chat with Deborah Gardner late last week. Asked her any concerns about the property taxes coming in. Remember, it was due on the 30th, and she said all the indications are things are coming in just
Good.
Yeah.
just fine, no surprises.
Yeah, so she's she's also sending me information. So it looks very good.
Just the sales tax is flattening out.
Mhm. And I should have those numbers, they come out on the 20th. So next Monday, I'll be able to report to you what the April look like.
Looks like,
Mhm.
okay. Perfect.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
As you
Thank
talk to the finance managers, you might mention the sales taxes flattening. It never hurts to plant the seed because
Yeah,
they're busy running departments rather than paying attention to the revenue stream.
And do you know what the current interest that we're making off it? Off the funds that are,
No, I don't. I don't.
Oh, I saw that in investment report and actually it looked pretty good, Arn, but I can't
Yeah.
regurgitate the number for you, but it
Yeah.
actually looked pretty strong.
from the state or just in general?
Well, it was presented and it was before my time. You went to that new group to manage that
Right,
and it was their report I was looking at.
got it, all right. Yeah, I was wondering what, there's been such a really hard to tell because the longer term interest rates have gone down while the shorter term has gone up and
But, well, this last report looked pretty good. Now there's
yeah,
some issues you're gonna have to deal with
yeah.
rate
okay.
changes, but this last one, what I do remember is it looked strong.
Well, I think we were collecting 0.25% max,
Yeah.
not that long ago, maybe 0.1%.
You know,
So when I was attending the finance committee meetings, you're right, that was what the state rate was and we had approved shifting over. Since that time, the state's rate has also gone up. I mean, they're looking at the markets as well.
Yeah,
And they don't want all the counties to do what we did because, we pulled a lot of money out. So theirs has gone up. But if I remember correctly, the new investment is coming in at a even higher rate. So,
even higher.
yeah.
yeah, I think it's a little higher.
Any concerns about the debt ceiling? I doubt we will get clipped by the debt ceiling, but they always settle at the end, right? Always until they don't.
They have in the past. I don't know. I don't know what impact that would have on our revenue stream.
I think we're mostly tied in with the treasury in some way. And if they start to have to renege, even if they'll pay it back a little later or something like that, our assets may go down.
So there is another area of concern because I have heard, we probably all have read information that from the National Association that one of the proposals for quote, cutting costs is to claw back, that's the new phrase, to claw back ARPA funds that haven't been encumbered yet. And I think we still have some that could be taken back. So we probably need to take a look at that for too much longer to see if we want to embrace that notion of sending money back to the federal government, or seeing if are we overlooking some needs? So.
Oh, that's a tough question. The federal government caused such massive harm to our economy. And by giving us the funds, it helps us get a little bit past that, but it adds to the problem they cause us. So
We had talked about 2 years ago about spending some of that money on projects that future generations will be able to enjoy, since they'll be paying for it. I don't think we've done anything on that.
we have not.
So
I don't think I'd be inclined to return the money, but that's that may be a stupid position.
When's our commitment date? Is it the end of this year or into 24?
So the ARPA funds have to be encumbered by the end of this year. Then we have two more, the end of 2024. So that's under ARPA.
And then they
But
have
what
to
we're
be.
talking about now is Congress changing the rules and clawing back what's not.
I know it. I was just seeing how much time before it has to be encumbered.
So the key is to follow the negotiations between Congress and the White House in terms of the grand plan. That may be one point of concession that he may take, but I don't know.
For the most part, whatever we've encumbered or allocated, if you will, has been to infrastructure. And I think it was done so fairly judiciously. That's why I'm a little bit hesitant.
Yeah. I think most of the plans from Public Works, those infrastructure things, that's been spent. I mean, that's been allocated. So that's
Allocated, not
it's
spent,
just
yeah.
it's just the ones that we haven't finished spending on, or we're never quite sure exactly how much that is.
Yeah. Do you know how much we have unallocated?
I do not. I
Where
saw
is
the investment report and I think there's about a little bit over $16 million sitting there invested right now.
I think that's a Kaylee McKay question.
Right. I think so too.
Mhm. I can get that information for you.
Okay.
Is Carolyn on? She could probably get Kaylee on board. I don't see either of them.
I
Okay.
don't see your name on either.
I'll get the information for you though.
Okay.
Kaylee's not here today, but I can
Yeah.
get the information tomorrow.
Exciting times, huh, Kathy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Kathy. As I mentioned, correction Marin's out, so Kim.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kim Hort, IT Director. I wanted to bring to your attention that tomorrow we have the electronic signature policy on the agenda. We discussed this a while ago, and it was a bit of a delay on my part to get that completed, but Kelly did a lot of the edits and lifting, and we communicated and edited with Doug Jensen. So I think we're ready to present that to the board officially tomorrow. And then an update in regards to the fish alert button. There has been great success of people intuitively understanding that that's how you report spam email. We actually had 8 threats come through, so we were able to systematically pull that out from our email inboxes. And in addition to what Kathy was saying, I have been auditing the software that we use in IT and identifying the gaps and the redundancy that may or may not be needed. And there has been a tool that is disconnected from our inventory management. So I'm trying to consolidate our ticketing and our asset management, which will help with doing our departmental billing. Essentially, we'll have a good inventory of our servers and switches and whatnot to then determine what departments actually use those rather than FTE.
So that efficiency should result in reduced allocations to the departments?
That's the goal, yes. There is a little bit of a cost to invest to get the software developed, but it will have an ROI of like $10,000 next year of return, because we're not going to have to renew a third-party application. So a little bit now to where we don't have to pay the software costs for that. Just kind of plugging along on the day-to-day stuff. So don't really have much else to report unless you have questions.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it.
It certainly was Kathy who enthused me about the ChatGPT success she's having. And one thing I've talked to IT about for a fair number of years, even before your time, and that's whenever I want something, I would go to Tiffany or to Kelly now to find something. And that kind of makes me feel bad, because I'm supposed to be quite facile with these kinds of tools. So what I had inquired a long time ago was indexing. I can get onto Google or Bing, whatever it is, and I can query something and I get back 30,000 answers in about half a minute max. And I can't get anything out of our system. And I'm told all the time the answer is, well, we're working on it with Laserfish and they have the searching features. I'm going to be a little bit more insistent here. Let's fix the search features. And there are many ways to do that. In the Google world, they have algorithms, and the data can be any place in the world, and it'll still find the data and point you to the data. We've got to be able to do that here. There are two parts to that, which is indexing what we have from now on going forward, and then to index what's in the past. I would think that there are some automated ways of going in the past. So I'm not pretending that we're going to hire 10,000 people and go through all the documents. But as we go forward, there will be the table that in the modern parlance, somebody might say the hashtags. We can develop the indices of interest, and then have software go back and read the old documents and do hits. Is it going to be 100%? No, maybe it's only half, but half is greater than zero yet, it seems to me. So I'd like to, if the two of you concur, just to say, let's get it done.
Who knew we would have theme music to go with that idea?
Ta-ta. That's very facile of you. I'm wondering if the task that or the responsibility that the county has to respond to public records requests could benefit from a more
very
efficient.
definitely, yeah.
And I know Bailey works an awful lot, a long time trying to search and find documents. I can't imagine there aren't counties who've already tackled that and to get those answers quickly. And
I haven't heard, but I trust our IT would do a superb up-to-date job. They may have to come back to us and say, it's going to cost you $50,000 to do something. And I think it's worth quite a bit for us to just get into the modern, get going on this. It's been long enough, and there are such tools, and with the chat AI, there may be something in there that can help.
Yeah, and as Commissioner Weber talks about, just in the public records request alone, if we don't do that within the time frame and all that, you end up with fines and stuff that are gonna eat 50,000 in a heartbeat, so.
Yeah.
I know we have tools out there. I understand that there will be an investment of time and resources to acquire that. So to make sure I'm understanding specifically, I know we have a lot of documents in Laserfish, like you had mentioned. So you're looking for improvement on indexing there, but then also documents that are out on our file networks. Is that what you were referring to in regards to like public records requests?
Let me be a little more strong on that. I don't care where the documents are. Laserfish searching capabilities are going to be nowhere near as capable as the one that I'm thinking you can come up with. It's you have the data, then you have the metadata, which tells you where stuff is. We search the metadata, and I can't help but think, since these search engines have been around for quite a while now, and the advancements, we got to be able to do a better job. So if you constrain yourself to a Laserfish answer, I'm saying you're on the wrong track.
No, I was just making sure that I was including the pockets of where the data is located. I wasn't just solely looking at Laserfish. I just wanted to make sure you were referring to those kind of documents as well in there.
I don't know fully what proportion of documents are or are not on Laserfish, but wherever they might be, I'm not thinking you'd search outside.
Okay. So like a one search that hits.
Only county documents is
Right.
really what I, and that could include, well, we'd have to decide. You could have a feature that says search only county documents, search Cowlitz County documents, where it might be Longview or somebody like that. So there'd be some minor things. It is frustrating to me that even the Google search engines don't do as good a job as I would like in terms of isolating, show me only these. I mean, it takes you several tries before you get rid of all the chaff. We can do a better job than that. And because we are stable now, the networking is beautiful, and thanks to your efforts with some person named Lance and his helpers, I think I would make this be a priority item. Is there something else that would be higher priority in your opinion?
I'm conflicted because yes, we do have to address our disaster recovery plan. It's been neglected, and I want to make sure that if something were to happen, we have a plan rather than being reactive. I want to be proactive, but I do see the value in time savings and, managing our data in this way as well. So data retention kind of falls.
Right,
into
right.
play with this
I
as
agree.
well.
The data retention is actually a piece of this also. So a uniform approach is, I mean, I would expect to see a policy document, draft document coming out sooner than later, and that would include the tendrils here. What it is, it's almost like producing the user documentation before you do the software. So you can look and see, yes, does this get me where I wish to go? That acceptable to you, gentlemen?
So I'm only hesitating because I know that we've got an interdepartmental committee working on a retention schedule. We haven't, and they've been working on that for a long time.
We've been meeting, I want to say monthly or so. And it's been hard to identify. Let me take a step back. Originally, we were going to start with email, and then it kind of brought up into light that we have not only our Barracuda email archiving, we also have our Microsoft Outlook. And what's happening is if you go through the process of purging data, based off of retention policies in Barracuda, we still have the record saved out in the Outlook. So it kind of opened up a can of worms that isn't as simple as we thought it would be to just clean up email because we have to hit multiple areas at one time. So we've been, oh, go ahead.
If you're done.
It's-
The trouble I have with that response is that software is not supposed to dictate how you do your business. You're supposed to decide what it is you want and get the software that will support that, not the other way around. Now, it may be that in this glorified document I have in mind, there's some hurdles in there that say we cannot achieve this for the next 2 years because we have to migrate from Barracuda to Bluefin, and that's okay. But at least we have a plan that resembles more like what we think we'd like to have as a user.
Understood. To kind of go off of the retention committee, we've also been addressing matters of like, how are we going to deploy teams? And there's features within teams where you can store documents, you can store chats, and various avenues like that. So we're going through the process of identifying what our policies are going to be and then articulating that within this policy, if that makes sense. So we're trying to define
Yeah.
what we're trying to do and say, no, we're not going to allow this, and then set the system to that and back it with a policy.
Yeah, I'm probably going to say blasphemous things here, which is if you want something done, you really need a champion, and you need someone who's willing to put their heart and soul on a piece of paper, and everybody throws darts at it. But to get together with 35 people or 20 or even 9 people and say, we're going to do the retention issues here, probably just means that what should be done in 6 months will now take 18 months. Trying to just schedule the meetings is an issue. So I think if I would look to someone like someone from the PA's office and IT and auditor, because they seem like they're the heart of everything. And maybe the PR people. So maybe 4 people, and one of those should be the champion that's going to take, put the straw man plan out there and take all the arrows because, oh, why you were stupid doing this. I mean, hopefully people wouldn't be that aggressive on you, but then we'd have a document. And you know how you start a 300-page book is 1 page at a time. So that's really all I'm saying here.
Yeah. The committee is about like 5 people. We have representation from your office. We do not have representation from the auditor's office, but we have representation from the records team, the law enforcement records, because they have a substantial volume of requests from their office. So kind of understanding their pain points. And then there's people from IT, including myself and staff that manage the system. So
yeah, in this case, I didn't mean specifically that I knew who should be on there. I'm just saying, keep it very small and be very aggressive about putting the people on there that are there because they want a solution, not there because they don't have to man the phones for the next hour and a half.
So when will you report back?
I will report back every week. I will continue our progress. Like I said, there's multiple projects going on. So trying to identify where those policies need to be. The retention policy needs to hit. Like I said, there's teams, and I've been isolating what we need from that. And then there's email retention and then also document retention. So I think it will be a continuous conversation. So I'll have an update next week.
But I think what the commissioner asked was more of a commitment to having a draft out.
Okay.
When would that happen? Am I correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
I am checking my calendar.
Okay, yeah.
I don't want to be overpromising. So I would say I should have a template at least started in the next 2 weeks. And then we can start building out.
Yeah, I would say, why don't you give yourself a month?
Okay. It's on my calendar.
Okay. Anything else for IT? Unfortunately, in today's world, everything goes through IT. So it's a big plate.
Mhm.
And we appreciate your efforts on that. Okay, Kim, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, yeah, I'll second that. This is not an easy job.
No.
I mean, this assignment is not an easy one. But it has many really neat attributes for everybody.
Yeah, none of us in this room or across this building do anything that doesn't involve IT these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have the power.
As long as the PUD supplies it.
Yeah. Thanks, Kim. Gentlemen, miscellaneous.
I want to thank both of you for your patience with me being at the Shorelines hearings. That was the largest task for that job that we've done in the 3 or 4 years that I've been representing the WASAC. And we're not quite finished yet, but I've shared with you some of the interesting discussions about saving fish and growing kelp and all that kind of stuff. And you may recall that.
Could you give us a hierarchical? This meeting was about this.
Oh, okay.
Kind of thing.
So the state has an appeals board for shorelines development permits. So county makes a decision to issue a development permit, and the appeals board can hear anybody who challenges whether or not the county did indeed follow the rules. This was the same board that had ruled so negatively against the methanol plant in Kalama. That piqued my interest. I said, how can this obscure board have such a huge amount of power to prevent development? In this particular instance, the King County issued a development permit for a kelp farm floating in the shore off the southwest of Vashon Island. So it's in King County's waters. And they did not go through an environmental impact statement. They decided not to do that and declared that there was no significant impacts. So they issued a declaration of non-significance. They said there were some mitigations that had to occur for that to go forward. And one of the statements in their declaration was that there was no significant impact on killer whales, which was kind of like a red flag waving to certain interests in the Puget Sound here. There would be no significant impact on killer whales, orcas. And so that prompted the appeal. One of the champions for saving the orcas said that the county should have done a full-blown impact statement and did not. So turns out the site was a 10-acre lease from DNR, and they were going to string rope 300 meters long, anchored at each side, and hanging down from each of these lines where it was going to be seeds, kelp seeds that were impregnated in another line that hung straight down. And the current was filled with nutrients, and that would automatically produce kelp beds in an area that there had been no kelp, fairly barren. So anyway, the decision was pretty interesting, and the burden of proof, of course, is on the appellants. And we are in discussions as to whether or not they actually met the burden of proof, which is shortcut for the county did everything right. So we're still negotiating on that and waiting for written summary arguments.
I did not get the part of the purpose of the kelp farm
Mhm.
was for just,
Yeah, the proponents wanted to make money by selling seaweed. I mean, if you increasingly, if you look on ingredients in food that we purchase, we're starting to see seaweed as a food additive. It is nutritious apparently, and Japan and Korea and China, use it quite a bit. So that was one of the goals. At the end of each of these lines, they would also be hanging baskets filled with various shellfish, clams, scallops, oysters that are even more profitable.
Mhm.
And so that was their goal. The county ended up authorizing a permit that would only occupy about 1 acre of the 10-acre site. And there's capacity to expand. And the kelp ends up providing refuge for salmon in an area there hadn't been before. So it's kind of like, that's a net gain from my perspective, but the whale folks didn't argue that. They wanted the whole thing stopped. So anyway, very, very interesting thing. While that was going on, you may have also heard that we had a family medical emergency, and that will require some surgery tomorrow morning. So I'll have to be available to help my wife tomorrow go through that. So unfortunately, I'm going to miss tomorrow's meeting as well. When it rains, it pours. So
a question on that. Did you get a presentation? And I know this is blasphemous also on the value of orcas versus the value of the industry, if you will.
Yes. We got an awful lot of interest. There was concern that the killer whales would get entrapped by the wires that were anchored. I mean, that's in other areas when that has been a problem, there the line has been like a crab pot that goes down a single line, and then it gets wrapped around the tail and is really damaging. They weren't able to actually present any evidence that this type of an array, where you have very taut lines that are anchored, the anchors are like 20 square feet of concrete on both ends. I mean, it's going to be taut. So they're not going to be wrapping anything around. There's nothing to wrap. It's just solid.
For a whale to pull that anchor out would be extreme.
Which is one of the reasons it is as massive as that anchor is. So, so there was that, and quite a bit of evidence was shown that, you know, if you install these kind of apparatus properly, that are not going to cause a hazard with the orcas. While in the meantime, the kelp is growing and it's attracting all kinds of fish, particularly juvenile salmon, and of course there are animals that prey on them. So there may be, you know, sea lions we know kind of like to chomp down on all kinds of fish. So pretty interesting discussions.
Yeah, it sounds.
I think somebody with an oceanography background like yours would be really.
How deep is the water?
So the apparatus starts off at 30 feet and then goes down to 80 feet. The shoreline, you know, drops. And so these short ropes that have the seed on them are suspended from lines that are 8 to 10 feet below the surface of the water. So all you'll see at the surface are buoys that are marking it. And so they're, you know, so they're hanging down. The issue is they can't be so far down that they can't get sunlight. I mean, that's the limiting factor. And it's sugar kelp, and sugar kelp, unlike the bull kelp that we normally think of at the surface, it has negative buoyancy, so it stays down under the water. So there's not going to be a little playground. They showed a lot of pictures of the orcas playing and, you know, jumping in and out and kelp draped over them. They like that, but this isn't that type of kelp. So
Were there discussions of techniques to keep the orcas out?
making sure the lines are very taut.
They didn't talk about acoustic transponders.
So the orcas use the, echolocation.
Right.
And so they will stay away from it, like it'll come back feeling like it's a wall. And so the way the farm is set up is that these lines are in groups of 5. So there's 5 parallel lines that then drop down these seed pods. But there are 3 sets of these groups of 5. So there's 15 of these lines. So it's strung out, like I said, over the course of about it's 2 acres by 5 acres to get the 10. So 2 acres wide where these 3 lines or 3 arrays are set down. And they use evidence of this type of apparatus in off of Norway as well as off of Japan and Korea. And this is the apparatus that science shows does not confound the killer whales. So
Thank you.
Interesting.
pretty informative.
And good luck tomorrow.
Thank you. Yes. My wife will be forever triggering the machines at airplanes station or at airports. Since we have to use them to see our grandkids, it's gonna be an interesting walk through.
I do have, but it's another topic.
Sure.
I was wondering if you wouldn't mind if I tried, and I may not succeed at this, drafting up a letter to the governor asking for 2 things. Just recently, we know that there's going to be construction on the bridge in Woodland, and that's going to make traffic be a beast. And so I wondered if you'd mind if I try to draft something that suggests that for their bike route and for this ease of the traffic northbound anyhow, or southbound, that I get his support for a wash dot overpass the freeway, a little bit like I think you've identified before. Any problem if I draft something up and it'll take me a bit because you have to make it attractive.
Yeah.
That would be one. And another one is I am thinking we need another Lewis and Clark bridge, and we've got to start the ball rolling there more aggressively than I've seen. Actually, I haven't seen anybody ask for another bridge across around here, but it's that intersection, the Iwao intersection, if I recall what who was the Seattle Port Commissioner ran for governor?
Bill Bryant.
Bill Bryant, yeah, he said that this intersection was the 2nd largest intersection in the state of Washington. I think it was by the tonnage. Of course, we're shipping the logs back and forth, so that adds up. But so I'd looked something up anyhow to ask him to put in his plan something to replace a 100-year-old bridge to modern standards and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If you have alternate suggestions, I'm happy.
Yeah.
So One of the challenges is that because it's an interstate bridge, you've got two states involved.
Yep.
And it requires federal legislation to build a new bridge. When the founders of Longview proposed the bridge here, they had to get a law passed. And at the time, the senior senator from the state of Oregon was listening to Portland businessmen saying, no, they didn't want all the traffic stopping at Longview. And as part of the grand scheme of things, they referred it to a cabinet level committee who established the height that we have. But it also tied in with the Hood River Bridge. The same law allowed for the Hood River Bridge as well as this one. So it might make it more regional if there's a way of tying it in with the studies that are currently undergoing for improving the 100-year-old bridge in Hood River.
Right. They've gone a long way on that Hood River Bridge. It looks like a very nice job. They've been working on that for 10 years.
Well, yeah, I don't.
Something like that. So it would certainly be wise to piggyback and refer to it.
Yeah.
And cost-wise, that Hood River Bridge is sitting today at 550 million, I think.
Mhm.
So maybe we can translate that for the federal people in so many bombs or bazookas or.
Yeah. But if you're asking if I have an issue with you making those two requests, I don't.
Okay, yeah, and I would put it on the letterhead of the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? I did see, got a communication before I just came in that executive director of Wasac is stepping down, Eric Johnson.
Yeah.
I've known Eric since the 90s. So I guess he's been part of Wasac since 2005, if I'm reading that right. So
I think so.
Also, are we collectively interested in, I'd like to learn more, and I think maybe the public would like to learn more about the juvenile detention center and juvenile probation services. We spend a lot there, and I don't know that anybody really knows outside of the administration how those things are. So maybe we could get a Wednesday presentation.
Well, we've got a schedule of the Wednesday afternoon work sessions on the second page where
Yeah,
lineup. And there isn't anything listed for that yet.
well, I was
Probably
thinking-
putting a workshop on is the best way to get
that would be a good
Get
way to
something happen.
do it because we've had a lot of questions on better utilizing that or
yeah,
maybe sharing
Mhm.
how two counties could work together. I know you've had some interest in that, so I think that'd be a good one to do.
so we could ask the clerk to schedule something. It'll take, it might be a month from now or longer, depending.
Yeah.
And I did not close out one aspect about the bridge, which is how to become unpopular quickly. Fee for service seems like to me a better approach than just blatant taxation across the board. So you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
tolls.
it's not popular, but it's the way Astoria was done. Narrows Bridge, the new one there is,
Still,
and you don't like it, but I think you get used to it, and it is.
Well, in the past, I would have gone against it just because I don't want to stop traffic in order to pay somebody there, but we're now able to do that
Not
automatically.
necessary anymore. Yeah, I came through the Narrows and I wasn't even set up yet, but then they just send you a deal and say set up with Easy Pass, and it just So
Or-
you
or
don't need
pay
to
a bigger
stop.
Or you pay a bigger fine.
Yeah, save me
That's that's true.
2.25.
Yeah, unfortunately, we cannot solve the problem of misuse of highway funds elsewhere. So, I mean, one might argue why toll, since we already pay an arm and a leg through all kinds of fees, or I should say taxes.
Yeah, it's not as common out west, very common back east, highways and
Yeah, well,
types of things.
So the other thing to look into in terms of your letter is a response to the studies that were made 20 years, no, not even 20 years ago, when they replaced the pavement on the bridge to Rainier.
yeah,
Because they had contemplated, other types of changes. So I imagine WashDOT still has those.
Right, has some of that
Studies.
stuff, yeah.
And the conclusion was it's not cost effective to redo the bridge, but just replace the pavement. So. And that might be something to have the governor support a new study.
I could say something squirrely like turn the old bridge into an encampment.
Yeah. Anything else? Give ourselves a 5, 6, 7 minute break before the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll adjourn this one, Kelly. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
You heard about the landslide in your backyard?